Hi everyone, and welcome to another video, the final video in the foundation series. So today I'm going to clarify one component, which is daily fluctuations. So once I clarify that, I think everyone should be able to forecast the markets properly based on the foundation videos. Yeah, so it's too early in the morning, around 4 to 5, that is. So let's get into it. So by the end of the video, I'm sure by the end of watching the whole foundation series, one should be able to forecast. Let's say this is the month of April forecast from May 1st, or the month of May to June the 22nd. So all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, approximately 5 weeks, 5 full weeks in the gold market. Should be able to do this. April was I forgot the first week, but I forgot to add up the first week, but this is basically the whole of April as well. This current April for this current year. So by the end of the video, one should be able to finish up now being able to forecast any market to this extent, and then yeah. So the last component I need to clarify is the daily fluctuations. So the transits, I should have one transit here. So there's this transit here on the 17th of April that happened. Apart from this transit, I think there's some other changes. Okay, let me not even focus on the April data. Let me focus on the May data. I think the April data, I forgot to correct some things, so there might be some other mistakes. However, let me use the 17th as a transit. This is one example of a transit. Apart from the 17th of April, there was the 30th of April, which is a secondary progression. So secondary progression video, I think, was already also given on the on YouTube, and it was also downloadable on in the free Telegram group. So the secondary progressions and the transits are few when it comes to the projection. How many they are within a year. However, the rest of the days. So let me give an example from May 1st all the way to let's say 29th. All these are daily fluctuations that happen because there was no transit, there was no cycle, there was no secondary progressions and all that stuff. So what was happening basically, this was basically daily fluctuations. So it's very important that daily fluctuations are understood, because that's the last component after knowing secondary progressions, transits, basically transits and secondary progressions. Once you master those, the next thing that you need to do is those days when there are no transits and no secondary progressions, what should be happening. So those are daily fluctuations that you should be able to forecast. So these cover much of the periods of the year than any other method, not really method, but other aspect of projecting a full year, right? So that's the last part of this series that I need to make sure that I clarify. So let me just remove the April data because I don't need to use it. So I'll use the May data as an example. So daily fluctuations, apparently you need to know the first key item, which is your what we refer to as your primary signifactor, or PS. Your primary signifactor according to Cephiro is that the primary significactor is the planet that is going to be influencing that particular year based on your primary progression. So on your primary progressions, when you move the chart from the radix itself, you progress it to the year that you're trying to forecast. The PS, or the lord or the ruler of the house in which the sun happens to be in, that planet is what is the secondary, the primary rather signifactor. And for this current year 2023, the primary signifactor in God is Saturn. So that's the reason why you see Saturn all over here in your daily fluctuations, because that's the one that's supposed to be used, right? So that should be noted, right? So what you're going to do next in order to be able to forecast this is that please pay attention. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to let me start with April, the last day, May, even May the 1st will be okay. I'll go to midnight, take it to midnight. I'll look up New York City again and apply the details, and then simply press OK. So I'll go to chart settings, I'll go to aspect. Now we need the aspects to be exact, so the orbits have to be exactly exact. So I have to put the orbits to 0. So this is the only time that you do this, when you're trying to find the daily fluctuations. So you set all the orbs to 0. You set all the orbs to 0 when you're trying to find the daily fluctuations. I'll repeat this. So orbs have to be 0. And again, you're looking at only conjunctions, opposite squares, strings, 150, 30, 45, and 135 aspects only. So once you press OK, and then on your restrictions there, you should make sure that you unclick both south node and north node. South node and north node. So others have been asking about cycles, and the only thing I can say for now is that every planet, or every object in the every planet actually has what would refer to as others will call it hemispheres, others will call it north and south, or east and west sides. Or hemispheres, others will call it hemispheres. But whatever the case is, there is the north node's positions. The north node actually is a position in the elliptic imaginary circle, should I say, of the moon, where the moon, when it passes that north node, it is in the southern hemisphere, right? It's in its southern hemisphere. When it passes the south node, it's in the northern hemisphere. So the south node looks up. South node looks up because it's at the bottom. So if this is north, right, then this must be south. But it's not that you're supposed to please bear in mind that it's not that you're supposed to, just because you're using the ascendant as the demarcation line, that you should say that all these houses here are in the northern and these houses are in the southern. No. What you use when it comes to the moon itself is you use the north, the south node here, and then the north node here. So whenever the moon crosses the south node here, it's in the southern hemisphere. In its southern hemisphere. When it crosses the north node is like an N, right? It's in the northern hemisphere. For in this current position where it is, it's in the northern hemisphere. So as soon as it crosses this south node, it's in the southern hemisphere. So that's just for the moon. For the other planets and the other planets rather, it's beyond the scope of the current video. So what is key is that for secondary for daily fluctuations, always know that you have to make sure that you have the north node here and the south node here unticked, so that you're able to see them where they are. So you go to settings, you go to restrictions, and then you make sure the north node is unticked. and the south node is unticked, so they are able to show on your chart. So once you have this done, you can now go to chart and then click on aspect list. So I should be able to see the aspects, and then go to your animation, which is a jump rate. Let's put it an hour. So I'll take things to April the 30th. So what I'm looking for, right, is aspects between Saturn, my primary progression, or my primary, signifactor, my primary signifactor, as its aspect to the moon, right? Its aspect to the moon. Okay, basically its aspect to any planet, right? Its aspect to any planet. So, but the majority of times, as you will see, is that they either happen to the moon, when it comes for Saturn currently, either happen to the to the sun or the moon. So whatever the case, we're just looking for aspects, daily aspects within a day that Saturn has to any planet, since it's a secondary significactor. So they have to be exact aspects. That's the reason why I've put the orbs to 0. So once we have put the jump rate, you can note here that there's an aspect that's happening between Saturn and the moon and its opposite. So I'll continue pressing forward, and just around 2 on a Sunday, on the 30th of April, around 1, there's an exact aspect, right? An exact aspect. So if you check this at the position of Saturn, which is 5 Pisces 20, and the moon also is at 5 Virgo 20, so that's exact opposite. So that's just for, that's the aspect that happened on a Sunday, right? So let me put it here. So on the 29th April, right? So Saturn was at 5 Pisces 20, opposite which is 5 Virgo, I think, 5 Virgo 20. That's for the moon. So the rule of thumbs is that when you have got aspects like this, when it's to the moon, in terms of daily fluctuations, when it's the moon, what you simply should be able to tell, if you want to know the direction of the market, is that you check the position. You don't look at the aspect itself, you look at the side of them, which hemisphere the moon is at. So currently it's past the north node, so it's basically in the northern west hemisphere, right? Doesn't yet cross the southern node, so would have categorized that as a buy, right? So on that particular day, the sun, it was supposed to buy. Okay, so it was supposed to buy. So now let me continue and see what I should note again for the next couple of days. So 30th is almost done, and we only saw that aspect only with the moon, the opposite one. So we'll check for the Monday, which is the 1st of May aspect. So apparently there is no aspect that's happening to Saturn. So now Tuesday, that was Tuesday the 2nd. We check again for an aspect to Saturn, right? So there's one that's happening, which is ink moon, right? So it's now exact. As you can see, the orbs are exactly 0, and it's the moon, Libra and ink. So we've got 5 Lib, 31, 150 aspect to 5 pieces 31. So that's our aspect here. Now we check for the hemisphere that the moon is at. So the moon hasn't yet crossed the southern hemisphere, the south node rather. So it's still in the northern node, right? Because it's coming from this side. The direction is from the north node to the south node, right? So it's still in the northern part of the aspect. So it's still in a bi. So the rule of thumb, thumb is that if the moon is in the northern part of its circle or ellipse around the earth, it causes bis. If it's in the southern, it causes cells. So whenever it crosses a north node and it still hasn't crossed up the southern node, it causes bis. Immediately it crosses the southern node and before it crosses the north node again, it causes cells, right? So since it's in the northern side, we are considering that we're considering that it's going to be a bi, and that's when it's used, right? So the question happens to be that the note has to be that the moon, first of all, is still on the same side, right? On the 29th and May the 30th, or May the 2nd, it was still in the same hemisphere, which is the northern side, right? So we said north is bi, north side bi, south side cell, right? So if I was to say north side so this is bi and this is bi. So if I was to point out something else, is that imagine this is day 1, day 2, day 3. So imagine there is a day in between where there's no aspect to the moon has an aspect to, or any other planet has got an aspect to Saturn, right? And therefore it's blank. And it so happens that it had an aspect the first day to the moon, and it was on the northern side, and again on the third day it was on the northern side, right? Both of them are bis. What happens to the day in between? What happens to the day in between is that if you find the different the midday between 1 and 3, which is 2, right? That day automatically becomes the opposite of these bis, so it becomes a cell day, right? So the same concept, let's say if it's day 1, day 2, day 3. So this is south side, which is a cell, south side cell, and then there's another last example, which is cell, which is bi, okay. So whenever we have south side and south side, so south side means that when the moon is in the southern side and it has an aspect to to the PS, the primary ascending factor, which is Saturn. And the first day again, it was also in the southern hemisphere when it was having an aspect with Saturn. The day in between, when it doesn't have an aspect, or when Saturn doesn't have an aspect, the way we find the influence on that particular day, we find the mid distance between these two dates, these two aspects. So the time it had an aspect to the moon, and another time it had an aspect to the moon as well. So the mid distance day between the day 1 and day 3 is 2. So because both of these are cells, or on the southern hemisphere, so we find the opposite, which is bi. That's going to be the influence on that particular day, right? But of course, as it's going to be bi, but it gets the coordinates. So if it's going to be bi, let's give an example of this cell here, right? This cell is this one here. So we have got, or this bi rather, we have got an example here. So the bi is happening when Saturn is at Pisces, Inc, and Lib moon, which is the moon is in the northern, so it's a bi. In April, the last day of April, it was again forming an aspect, but the 1st of April we didn't have any aspect, right? So according to the rule of thumb, right, since it was the moon was the one in common in these two aspects, the difference, the mid distance between the 29th and the 2nd of May is the 1st of May, which we call it as midday, right? The mid distant day, right? So it means that it's going to be a cell, right? But it retains these aspects. So between Saturn, its position, the Inc, and then the Libra, and then the moon again. So that's the reason why we have put the same exact details here. So it's the same rule if we talk about southern side with southern side as well. So let's say the Saturn has an aspect to the moon on the first day. Second day, it has no aspect to any planet. Third day, it has an aspect to the moon. And both the times, the moon is in the southern hemisphere. And the mid-distant day between day 1 and day 3 is 2. Basically, because both of these were cells, this becomes a bi, an opposite, right? However, the cases where day 1 had a northern side, the day 1 was a bi because the moon was in the northern hemisphere, and day 3 happens to be the aspect to the moon when the moon is in the southern side when it's causing cells. The day in between gets the influence from the next upcoming influence, which is the cell, right? So since the moon is changing sides from north to south, it retains on this day when there's no influence the next side, the influence of the next side it's going to, so which is the southern side. So it causes a cell on this particular day, and we get the aspects again from there. So it's the same thing if it's in the southern hemisphere and shifting to the northern hemisphere. Basically, we get the next side it's going to go, the influence of the next side it's going to, which is a bi. So these are the influences whenever we have got daily fluctuation influences, and we have aspects to the moon. So the side on which the moon is in is the influence that it gives. So if it's in the southern hemisphere, it gives cells. If it's in the northern hemisphere, it gives bis. So I've already given an example that on April this year we had Saturn opposite moon, and it was in the moon was in the northern hemisphere, so it was causing bis, as we earlier indicated. On the 1st of May, there was no aspect. On the 2nd of May, there was an aspect of Saturn to the moon again, right? However, this time around again, the moon was in the northern, which meant bi. So according to the rules that we have laid down here, because it was in both cases in the northern hemisphere, this midday, which happens to be May the 1st, the day in between May 2nd and April 29. We have it becomes a cell, right? So let me give another example. So let me just continue with that. I'll just give probably for the first week of May, and then you should be able to get the gist of the whole system. So we were still on the jumping part. So that was May 2nd. So later that day, it didn't have any aspect. So let me go to Wednesday. So Wednesday, Saturn aspects. Looking for Saturn aspects. So Saturn had an aspect to the moon. It was 135 aspect. So let me check if later on it has none, doesn't have. Okay, so now we're on an exact aspect, right? So Saturn pieces 536 Libra 2036 semi six quadrant, which is 135 as degrees aspect, so which is here, right? Because the moon, rather the moon, where is the moon? The moon is here. The moon is here, right? So the moon hasn't yet crossed the southern node, so it's still in the northern node, so it's going to still be a buy on this particular day, right? So let's go on to the following day. So mind you that this week that we're looking at, there's no transit, there's no secondary progression, there's no cycle and everything else. So it was a clear day. So the only influence after that was basically the daily fluctuations that needed to be checked out. So the next aspect that we're having is on Thursday. We are having a trine between the Saturn and the Moon. So yeah, the trine. So we have got Pisces 541, Scorpio 541, right? On the 4th, that's the one there. Now let's check where the moon is. So Scorpio 3, so Scorpio 338 is the position of the southern node, right? And the moon is at Scorpio 5, so it's already past the node. It has already crossed the southern node and it's past the node, so it's in the southern hemisphere. So what that means is that it's going to be a cell on that particular day. So, and that's the reason why we're seeing a cell, right? But since there was no in between days, so there's no these last two rules do not apply, because we had an aspect the previous day and I still had an aspect this coming this day when the hemisphere shifted. So this is a cell on a Thursday, and then let's go ahead. So I'm only projecting for the first week. So Friday, there's no aspect on Friday, so let's look on Saturday. Aspect of Saturn. Okay, there's no aspect again on Saturday, so Sunday. Okay, so on Sunday we have an aspect. So we have an aspect, a square actually, Apparently the moon is now still in the southern, just crossed the southern node here. It's still in the southern, so it's still a cell. But we have to check the day in between. So let me change take the calendar back. So on the 4th of Friday, on Thursday the 4th of May, which is here, we had we had an aspect, right? Friday the 5th we didn't have an aspect. On the 6th we didn't have an aspect. We had an aspect on the 7th. So now if you check the day in between, it's going to be 5. It's going to be on the it's going to be Friday and a half. Friday and a half means that we will take it to the 60th. That's the midday, right? So when this is the midday, since we're trying to look for Friday's influence, when the midday happens to be on another day, and then this day that remains on the 5th, what we do is that we draw up the we draw up the chart for that particular day, which is what 7th on the 5th. Yes, for midnight we draw up the chart for midnight, yeah, for that particular day, since the midday happens to be on a Saturday, but we're still looking for influence on the Friday. So we draw up the chart for midnight for the 5th of May, and then what we do is that we make sure the aspects are back to normal, which is within 5 orbits. So I have to change back this to 5 orbits. So now I'll be looking at any aspect that Saturn has made and deduct from there to find the actual influence for that particular. So we have got Saturn here, ascendant, negative orbit at yeah, so which is okay. So I've got the moon trine Saturn, which is negative orbited as well, which is okay. We can consider that. Both these are positive, so we'll leave them out. This is positive as well, we'll leave them out. So now of these two, the one with ascendant doesn't matter, only unless aspect Saturn does not have any negative orbited aspect to any planet. So it has an aspect to the moon, which is a trine Saturn. So it's the one that is going to influence that particular day, which is on the May the 5th. And since it's to the moon, we know that the moon currently is just crossed the southern sphere, so it's going to be causing a cell. So and that's the reason why we have cell here. But remember, the reason why I put a by here on the 6th of May is because that's the midday. This was the midday between the 4th aspect and the aspect that happened on a Sunday on the 17th, right, between Saturn. So this was the midday, and that's the reason I said this was a cell, because it's on southern, and then on the 4th we had the moon in the southern. So the distance, the gap between these two, which is our rule here, the mid distance day between two southern hemisphere, two cells, is a by. When the moon is both in southern here and in southern on the 7th, which happens to be a by here, right? So the reason that's the by, because on the 7th it was in the southern, and that's when the aspect happened. On the 4th, with Saturn, it had an aspect and it was in the southern hemisphere. So the day in between was on the 6th. However, for the 5th, which was, we didn't have any influence. The reason is 24 hours there. I should have put the actual 24 hours, but I put 0000 is because that's a 24-hour chart. So that's the reason why we drew up the 0 00 5th of May to check for the aspects. The orbits, again, as I said, we take them back to 5 and check for negative orbits of Saturn and eliminate the ones that are not needed. So this is the final video that should conclude, or perhaps make things right with how the daily fluctuations are supposed to be done. But basically, if you want to see how everything turned out, so we'll start from May the 29th. Okay. So remember that, okay, May the 29th. So May the 29th is basically here. So let me just zoom in. So May the 29th, we didn't have any. May the 29th, April 29th. April 29th was a Saturday, so we didn't have any, the market was closed on that particular day. So we have May the 1st, which was a sell. Yeah, so we can see the price movement here. So it doesn't matter whether it closed the buy or it closed green or sell. Whatever the case is, that this was a sell day, which was a mid distance, right? So on the second, were the buy. So were the buy on the second, which was this buy here, and on the third again were the buy, right? So on the fourth were the sell, and last day were the sell as well. So on the fourth were the sell. That's when the hemisphere changed. And then on the 5th as well were the sell. Sorry, on the 5th again were the sell. So that's basically how everything happens, and all the influences can be projected using daily fluctuations, because they're the ones that make up more forecasts within the year than transits and secondary progressions, right? So please be able to go through the rules, and then you should be able to apply this immediately. So if you have watched the whole foundation videos, including this video that I'm going to upload, you should be able to forecast at least basically a projection of any particular year. So this is just from the projection for May in terms of time. So these basically are what you use to trade any that particular instrument that you want to trade. But then this is customized only for gold. So these aspects were applying for gold, right? Or applying for gold. So this was the forecast for May for gold, and as soon as you review the foundation videos, you should be able to do this, and you should be able to know exactly what's going to happen on a particular day, whether it's going to be buying or going to be selling. But just because it's saying it's a buy doesn't mean that the market will close a buy. Imagine here on the 5th. Let me point out this. Let me use this particular day. May the 1st was a buy, right? What's the buy or sell? Oh, it was a sell because it was a mid day between two buys, so it was a sell. So the point being is that just because it was a buy, a sell day, imagine it bought on this particular day, right? And the market went up and sold from this particular point. It was a buy day apparently, right? But imagine the market pushed up here and then sold, right? One person might actually say that this was a sell day rather than a buy day, right? So the good part is that it was actually selling. However, if it had bought considerably, let's say the way it bought on the second, right? It had bought and this was a sell day, right? The influence according to the time schedule here was sell, right? And then the market pushed up like this. Please always remember that as much as there is time, and this is just time projections or time records that we are forecasting for the market. The final piece that one has to master apart from time, since time now, I think the majority of influences that can influence the market on any particular day have already been given in the foundation videos, according to what Sifarios, Akana, and Stock and Shaki gave. So all his arcanas have been given in the foundation videos. So one should be able to do this on their own as soon as they review the videos, right? For any market. So once one has mastered time, right? Price also has to be mastered. But remember that there are cycles of time. Let me put this way: cycles of time and the cycles of price. Let me just point out that the cycles of time and the cycles of price. So these daily fluctuations that we are seeing here in terms of time, price has its own cycles. So every influence that happens on a particular day, these are basically cycles. These are cycles. All these are cycles. So don't be deceived that these are not cycles. These are basically cycles, right? Just that they're short-term cycles, right? So as much as these are cycles and they are short-term cycles, price also has its own cycles. Basically, imagine that since this was a sell day, right? So what I'd have said is that according to price cycles, the price for that particular day might have needed to be sold at this exact price, right? And according to this particular day, which was a buy day, it might needed to have been bought at this basically price. So in short, according to the cycles of time, on this particular day, the market needed to hit its highest at that point, and the following day it needed to hit that point, and then the following day, which was a buy day, price needed to hit to continue its uptrend by coming to retest to make support on this price before it shot up, right? Again, before it shot up, hit its maximum price point, which was a sell day in this particular day, and continued to make a rebound sell on the following day, since it was a sell day. Yes. So as much as we had time, we said this was supposed to be let's see, this was supposed to be okay, it was a sell. So on the 1st of May we had a sell, this was a buy, and this was a buy, and this was a sell, and this was a sell. So according to time cycles, this was how it's supposed to have happened. But remember that price also has its own cycles. So the cycle according to price, which is basically similar to time, is that the maximum price that the market need to have sold the market that needed to have sold at on the 1st of May was this price. Then it 1806, and then it need to have bought, crashed until it bought at 1973, continued the buy trend by finding support on the following day on 209, and then hit its maximum at 2060. Once it hits maximum, it need to continue to start selling, and then it need to continue its sell by hitting the 2056 price level before it continued down selling. So this is a price cycle that one needs to master next, right? But when it comes to time, basically you're told that this was a sell, this was a buy, this was a buy, this was a sell, and this was a sell, right? But as much as you can know the time, the next big thing that one has to master is the price cycles, right? The price cycles, and there's no one better to who teaches that than Gann himself, right? So Safari doesn't cater for time for price cycles, but Gann does. So you better read Gann's books on price if you want to know the price cycles. As much as for time, Safari has basically taught everything, and this is exactly my final video too when it comes to time, right? And everything that Safari has taught, right? So you should understand that you have to master both time cycles and price cycles, because a trader basically might know that the direction today is supposed to be down, but as you can clearly see, it bought here. So it means that the next important issue that someone has to master is the price, because it's the price that you sell on that particular day that matters the most. Because one would have sold at the open and they would have probably been kicked out. But if you had sold at the maximum high that you need to make at 206 on that particular day, and then came out on the following day when making a buy at 1978, one would have made profit, because they would have put a stop loss at probably 1 or 2 points up, and then they would have sold up to this particular point and then bought from this particular point upwards. So and continue to add another position on the following day at this 2009 level before starting to sell on this particular time. Now these are cycles based on time, on price. So the ultimate trading system is that one has to really master price after they master time. You can never get to price. You can never master price without mastering time. So once you master time, basically Safari outlines everything that you need to know about time. Once you master it, the next objective that you need to remember is to master price cycles. And price cycles basically require that you need to understand how time works and how price is linked to time, right? So this is just my outline. I'm not going to go into price cycles and other stuff, but I needed to make mention of this because this is basically time. This is just for 1 month, but you can do that for the whole year and all that stuff, right? So this is the conclusion to time cycles, right? So this is the conclusion to time cycles. So once you watch these foundation videos, please be able to produce such analysis for each particular month and each particular year of any market, right? And then once you're able to do that, and you've mastered, you're able to do this, your next objective should be to read Gann's books and figure out the cycles of price or time or the price cycles, because that's the ultimate trading system once you master these two, right? One alone won't do. First of all, remember that price, you can never get to price without getting to time. You have to master time first before you can understand price, because price is dependent on time, right? And then two, you can never have a complete system of only you mastering time, because you can know the direction, you can know what's going to happen on that particular day, but the fact that you haven't entered the market at the right price can mean the difference between making money and losing money. And several times I think I've been caught up in this very dilemma of having known exactly what was going to happen, but entering at the wrong price. So luckily, um, I got to harmonize time and price together, and my price is really getting to exact. And in a couple of days, I should be able to give some simple, should I say, tests or examples of price cycles in gold, either in the group as just simple signals that are not meant to be traded, but just meant to be observed to see how they work out, right? So, um, having said all this, please, guys, watch the foundation videos back to back, and please master time cycles. So basically, you should be able to do this for any month, any particular day, particular year, for any particular instrument. Um, having said this, please like and subscribe, and please don't forget to make sure that you test out this for yourself. Draw these charts, and you can send them in the group chat. I should be able to review them. Remember that the best way of learning is basically getting a simple date, work out work out the examples in the videos, and also just simply try to give yourself an exercise of projecting a month and all that stuff, and please post it in the group so that we can correct where possible, and probably help out where possible in terms of time cycles. So don't forget to do that, because that's the way you can learn, right? It's not just an issue of just watching a video. It's an issue of trying to see if you can figure out by putting into practice what you're watching in that video, right? um yes. So hopefully, uh when people finally have tried to show, or have shown that they are putting into practice um the foundation videos, perhaps we can have Zoom meetings, because that's when it will be actually more more reasonable um to discuss these things for any market, right? um yeah. So that's when it's going to be reasonable to us discuss these meetings, because the videos basically are what I'm going to be basically discussing in the Zoom meetings. But if people haven't shown that they're actually putting practice in these things, it's just as good as me just making the same videos over and over again. And therefore, that's the reason why you haven't been seeing any latest videos, because this was meant to be the last foundation video to complete the series. So this is basically touching all the time, the time projections that anyone needs to know, right? uh, since the price projections and price cycles are not part of what I'm going to be offering out there for on YouTube, perhaps the next couple of videos will be just reviews from books and other stuff. So please, I don't need your like, I don't need your oasis. The most important thing that I feel I make these videos for is that people should be able to use them as examples and take it upon themselves to start analyzing. Just sit down, pen and a paper, just computer worksheet, talk about Excel, get your charts out, watch the videos, try to put whatever uh, has been described in the videos or in the book into action. Just try to come back with, or just try out on your own, produce what has you have seen in the videos or in the books based on how they are showing how it's supposed to be done, right? Once you're able to do that, then you basically now try out the same um, way of coming up with certain results for your by your own self. So with these foundational videos, please um, review the videos, try to do what the videos are showing, take every example, reproduce it yourself, look at Sifario's book again, try to reproduce the examples yourself, because it's in so doing that you begin to crack these things or understand exactly what every author out there, uh, be it in videos or in books, they're trying to teach, right? So please guys, once you review the videos, don't forget to try to do it yourselves, even forecasting into the future. Let's say coming 2 months or so, or next year, you can drop those charts or your analysis in the group so that we can discuss, because that's the whole point of having that group, right? So please make sure that you review this and all the videos that I've provided, and the books, Sifario's books, Gan's books, George Byers' books, you name them. Please read the books, watch the videos, and try to produce what these videos are showing. You can use Gold for starters, but I'll be providing verified dates for other instruments shortly. So therefore, we can actually diversify into other markets, because you have a lot of people actually being able to produce such results. Yeah. So from me, um, please leave a like and a comment, and please don't forget to drop your analysis for the coming weeks, days, months, or years in future, based on the videos, on what you have learned in the foundation videos. And I'm looking forward to actually seeing those analysis and trying to see how they have been done. Otherwise, for me, have a great day.